My name is Dennis Whitelaw. Was born in New York. Lived until I was probably around 29, 30 years old, and then moved to Latin America. Worked in Mexico for 20 years, and Guatemala for 4, and now Costa Rica 4.5. I have a great passion of working in the community. When I was a young child, I first wanted to become a priest. So that's what really got me a little bit passionate. And I'm Catholic and raised Catholic. But I think I really wanted to get into politics when I was young. But as I grew in business, realizing that business has a responsibility to the community, so I think I've been able to do both simultaneously.
Muy buenas noches, amigas y amigos. Tenemos en esta ocasión la feliz oportunidad de conversar con el presidente de la Cámara de Comercio Costa Rica, Estados Unidos, don Dennis Whitelaw. Vamos a hacer esta conversación en inglés con subtítulos al castellano. La primera vez que hacemos este esfuerzo, pero esperamos que el programa esté muy bien. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
President, thank you. It's an honor. On behalf of all our members of the American Chamber, we're extremely excited and thrilled to have this opportunity. I want to congratulate you on your mission that you went to in Washington very recently. We know that Vice President Pence had indicated that Costa Rica is the shining diamond of Central America, so we know that there is a good positive feeling. But one question we have as our members is, what motivated you to go, and what do you think were some of the opportunities we may face and some of the successes of your mission?
Well, we have, as you know, a very strong, solid, and friendly relationship with the United States. We have been allies for a number of decades, and the ongoing dialogue between the United States and Costa Rica needed to be deepened, and particularly at this point where we have a new administration in Washington. So other than the issues that we had already focused on during my previous visit during the Obama administration, mainly on security matters, we wanted to find out what were some of the perspectives of the new administration on trade, what were some of the concerns they had on regional issues such as Venezuela, what kinds of concerns they had vis-a-vis the possibilities of Costa Rica and Central America of continuing their relationship with the United States in the framework of the free trade agreement, which was obviously one of the issues we spoke about with President Pence, Vice President Pence, and I think that what we found out was the full support of the administration, both in a bilateral sense as in a regional sense. In Central America remains obviously a very significant region for the United States in terms of a number of issues, and Costa Rica will continue to exercise its leadership within the region. So all in all, what I find in the conversations we had, not only with the Vice President, but also with the Secretary of Homeland Security, General Kelly, and with a number of congresswomen and congressmen and senators, is that Costa Rica remains a solid ally of the United States, and there are high expectations of the many things we can do together to enhance security, democracy, and human progress in the region.
Well, that's great. We in our visit afterwards, we felt that same feeling and had gotten some great comments back on your trip. So congratulations for that, and being one of the first Latin American presidents to do that. We think that was very aggressive and very positive. So
well,
congratulations.
And I was very happy, Mr. Whitelaw, Dennis, good friend, Dennis, because of the warmth of the visit. I mean, there is a recognition that this is not only geopolitics. This is also a human understanding that has been built up through the ages. I mean, Costa Rica and the United States have been supporting each other for many, many, many years, and this was also very evident to me.
That was great. My next topic is the GAFA gray list. We know that there's been some opportunity for us to get things through Congress, and it's been a little slow, and we know that you've been really working hard on that. And what we wanted to do is what actions do you think we can do prior to what deadline may lie ahead of us to keep us off that list? That's our question.
Well, mainly, that we've been working very hard, because if Costa Rica gets into that gray list, getting us out of it, it's going to be even more difficult than getting into it.
Right.
So The Ministry of the Presidency has been working very hard with Congress and with the other institutions, because it's not only a legislative affair. We were able to approve the law in a first debate. This gives us leeway to deal with Gafi in their next meeting in Miami, and we hope that everything will be in place by the time they meet in Paris in June. So with the approval in its first lectura, the first reading of this legislation that entails engagements of Costa Rica on terrorism, on money laundering, on transparency and in banking transactions, etc., we will be able to comply with the international standards, which are very, very high, that at a time, and just recently, could have brought us into that great list. Not because of lack of commitment on the part of the Costa Rican government and the private sector, but simply because these new legislation responding to challenges that are relatively new in the international community, we're simply not there. So the best thing we can do is keep on pushing at the legislative level so that the law will be finalized as soon as possible, which will give us a necessary space to deal with Gafi in the different instances of this organization. For now, I think what has been achieved in Congress and also with the support of the banking system, which has to provide an opinion on the law, positive or negative, regardless of that, is something that I think we have been able to achieve. So for the time being, we're closer from not getting into the list than where we were before. So we're just moving away from that possibility, and I hope that in the next few weeks we will be able to finalize the process.
Well, we in our chamber have been very appreciative of your leadership with you and your team on that issue. And we know that sometimes in legislature things can be caught up and not understood the priorities of that. And I think your leadership and then making them understand that has been really critical in that process. And
well, I think that it has been tremendous to know that you were behind us, supporting us in different ways, because the Gafi legislation is not well understood. I mean, we think that Costa Rica is wonderful, that we have no problems, that everybody knows that we are a peace-loving, democratic state. That's not the way it works. I mean, we have to comply with international standards. This is a very critical matter of financial security, and the many ways through which this financial security becomes vulnerable to terrorism and to organized crime. So all the efforts that can be put upon the lawmakers in order for them to understand the importance of this were critical, and you help us a lot. So it was not only the government of Costa Rica, but a number of private and public forces that were behind this.
well, that's great. I'm going to touch a little bit about tourism. We had a meeting just the other day with the Director of Immigration, and I'm a pretty big proponent about global entry, and it's about making the experience for the Ticos when they go to the United States to be a little bit more facilitating and getting them in and out. It was a great meeting, and we're working on some great stuff with the U.S. government as well as the Immigration Office. Convention Center on the boards, congratulations. Absolutely outstanding looking at that construction, and it's just going to be spectacular, and thank you for your leadership as well as the Minister of Tourism. The increased flights coming to the country, I want to make sure everybody understands that is monumental. And I think that the growth that we've seen, and since I'm in that business where I get paid, in the hotel business, we've seen that growth, and it's real. What else can we do in tourism through your leadership that you've done up at this point, and you see that we can do more in Costa Rica to do?
Well, we will continue working on diversification of the sources of our tourism. Obviously, the United States will continue to be our main source of tourists, but we want to do more in Europe, more in Asia. We continue to be very interested in the Middle East, particularly in the Emirates. Minister Ventura just came back from there. I think that's a possibility. Definitely a lot to be done on cruises. This is something that I know interests the tourism sector. It would be very important, very instrumental for our port cities of Limón, of Golfito, of of Punta Arenas, to have more cruises. We don't have the know-how well developed. This is something where we are not experts on because it's a different kind of business, but we're working on it. And I think that if we do that and we take advantage of Discovery Destinations, the Discovery Destinations project in Liberia, we're going to see this this area of our economy exploding in the future in a good sense.
Oh, yes.
I think that, but cruises and being certain that the ecosystem in Guanacaste surrounding the destinations Discovery Park are well woven. Is going to be crucial in the next few years. If we do that, tourism is going to again become the main source. It's almost there, or maybe it has already surpassed the mark of the biggest source of income that the country has. I mean, we have developed this industry quite a bit since the late 1980s and early 1990s.
Yes, we thoroughly enjoy our experience, and we're probably one of the largest. Our hotel company is the largest in the country, so we really appreciate that. New investments. You have been phenomenal in visiting and going out and searching and working from a commerce stance and bringing new companies and new employment for the people locally here. Based on your recent discussions with the U.S. government, we know that there's a little different tone. But we also know that our trade agreement right now does benefit the United States, and so I think we're pretty safe in that. But what do you think we need to continue to do to try to get new investments here based on what you've experienced?
Well, we have to be working very hard because, as you know, this world is very, very competitive. It's not only a question of being a nice country. You have to provide incentives, you have to provide ways in which companies are going to be looking for Costa Rica as a destiny for their resources. I'm very happy because just recently got the numbers from Minister Mora, who's a great ally of the private sector, and both on services as well as bienes y servicios. The numbers for the first trimester of 2017 are great. I mean, we have been growing at a 9% rate. It's the best rate in the last 5 years. And I'm using this because it's just arrived. I just saw it before coming to the program. All subsectors have grown. Medical devices, agriculture, foodstuffs, electronics, plastic. So free zones, which is something where the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is great on, is up 17% in the first trimester of this year.
Phenomenal numbers.
And so we are seeing in services, for example, growth is 11%, is the largest in 3 years, and the growth in sectors in tourism, services, and telecommunications are up, and so the trade and the exports mark for this year in the first trimester has been met and in fact surpassed. We grew 108%.
Imagine that.
So I think something is being done well by the Ministry of Trade and the extraordinary support of the private sector. So my bet would be we have to keep on doing what we're doing and at the same time seek for the next frontier, which is research and development. This is something that I find it's probably going to be crucial. In other words, not only to make things, to build things, but to imagine them. This is going to be a leap.
That would be great.
Leap
Super numbers.
forward.
Congratulations. And yes, the Minister, Moore, has been incredibly outstanding, and many of our members have counted on his support. And I just want you to know he's not just given the support, he's gone above and beyond. And so we really appreciate that.
Good.
As our chamber. Going along the lines of that new growth of business, we know that education has a big impact. We also know that passion you have for education is out there. We've seen and done a lot of surveys in our chamber where the needs are coming. Mm-hmm. We may need to adjust and slightly change the path of that ship to try to educate to meet those needs of labor. And some of the programs like dual education, we think are some critical components to help that. As well as others. And your school of development in the country, I want to make sure everybody knows we're very pleased that your passion for continuing to see that the Costa Ricans are fully educated is there, and by the number of schools you build. So that's been fantastic. But what do you think we can do more of in education to really make an impact?
Well, definitely, as you mentioned, dual education. I fully support that idea. We're already we already have in place a model of dual education that because we want to test it and be certain that that's working the right way. Undoubtedly, the sciences, engineering, computer sciences need to be strengthened quite a bit more. Universities, public and private, are there. One of the results of my travel to the United States and elsewhere has been the decision of important universities to build, to open campuses in Costa Rica. This is helping us with Texas Tech, it's South Carolina, a number of big universities that are now here, private, that would like to graduate more people in areas that are required by the new investors. I think we have to strengthen technical education as well, both in secondary schooling as well as in the INA, el Instituto Nacional de Aprendizaje. This is crucial because it is exactly that kind of education that's required by a good number of investments in Costa Rica. We have to be sure that the quality of our education is as high as the investment that we are devoting to education. This is something that needs to be assessed by the Ministry of Education, and also to continue to invest in labs. One particular area that I am appreciative of your support, because I know that you have been working with the First Lady on that area, is girls' education in sciences and technology. This is something that we treasure very much because the enrollment of girls in those areas is relatively low as compared to men's. So getting more girls to participate in these areas, as well as enhancing the capacity, the labs, the capacity in universities, is something that needs to be done as well. You know, as you know, we're investing almost 8% of our GDP, 7.89% of our GDP in education, and that's a good chunk of money. So we have to be certain that we're getting the results in terms of quality that we so much desire. And one of the things, other than engineering and sciences and technology and communications, that we would like to also strengthen, it has to do with languages. This is something that we need to look into as well.
Yeah, great job on that. And yes, we're Chamber will continue to be passionate about helping the First Lady in that program. And we do love to see how we can further enrich the female life here in Costa Rica. Fiscal reform, great on the first passage, as you said. We know that that's been super. And you've done also, when you look at the statistics of controlling government spending, you really haven't increased it. You've kind of made that commitment. We do know that there are some areas that need a little bit of restructuring and re-engineering from reduction. Do you think that we have a chance to get that done in Costa Rica?
I think so. I'm not dropping that as a priority of the administration, particularly because we know that if we don't get the financial strengthening that we require, even all those good numbers are not going to be lasting because of the indebtedness that the country has and because of the growth of the fiscal deficit, which we've been able to decrease, in fact, from the 5.9% we inherited when we first came to power to 5.2%, which was the deficit last year. So the effort that has been done by the administration in order to bring the deficit down has been significant, and I'm grateful that this has been acknowledged. Yet the need for fresh income from taxation is still there, and yes, we need to do some adjustments in terms of public employment and increasing the capacity of the state to do more things. There are a number of laws that have already been approved. We decided from the onset not to present a big tax package, but to break it down in a number of different initiatives. Out of 9, 6 have already been approved. So little by little, we've been able to, move forward in strengthening the income of the state, but we're still lacking a definition on the added value tax and on the income tax reform. And yes, there is a tremendous pressure in government in Congress to somehow balance those new taxes with something on public employment. I think it is going to be very difficult to approve anything in this period of extraordinary, as we call it, sesiones extraordinarias,
Right.
where the executive has the initiative to present projects. But I think we still can make it in August when we have the next bid for the government to present its initiatives. So I'm looking, with some expectation and optimism to that session in August. If we reach an agreement with the political parties by then, and hopefully by August, most of the candidates of the different parties that will be seeking the presidency in the 2018 elections will have been chosen, then maybe we will have a chance. It's fundamental. I cannot see the new administration being able to keep up whatever commitments the different parties make if we don't have the resources for that.
Right. And we've supported that fiscal reform with you so much. Do have a passion for making sure we look at government costs, and we appreciate that. But we also like the electronical factors. We know there needs to be a little more adjustments to it, but we think that that's going to be another avenue for getting ourselves a little bit more collection to help us offset that debt.
Yeah, whatever we can do with the factura electrónica, we will do, because it's a very positive step forward that needs to be accomplished. And the other thing is, ensuring transparency and the good work of the government in terms of fighting corruption. This is also something that I'm very interested in, and it's a commitment that we have. And I think the private sector and the citizenry in general needs to be with peace of mind in terms that the government is being honest in dealing with public funding.
Yeah, and you've been definitely leading that in our Latin America conference for American Chambers. When you look at the survey every year, the #1 issue they have is corruption. So we know some of the initiatives you're taking and pushing forward, and the bidding process and putting some more refinement on that is really great. In infrastructure, we've seen some great stuff. Even though there's a little more traffic, we know there's no pain, no gain. So we're really appreciative of that. What else do you think you can get done for the rest of your term in infrastructure?
Well, definitely we're going to finalize the Alfredo González Flores Bridge, the former La Platina. I just got news as I drove to this program that the last piece of prefabricated losa, the blocks that go under the asphalt, has already been installed. So we are on time, according to what we had expected after the last delay in that bridge. So we're going to do that. We will have the 257 road that connects the road to Limón with the Moín new port, the APM port. So that's going to be done. There are a number of bridges that soon will be. The bidding for the construction of the bridges are there. So we will start working on them. The bridge in Lindora is one of them. We will do a couple of more rotondas, and I hope that in ensuring this infrastructure, the mobility in the San Jose area is going to improve greatly. But it is not only traffic what we're concerned about. There's a good part of infrastructure that's referring to educational, more high schools and schools, more aqueducts. That's a major one, particularly with the resources we got from the Emirates,
Right.
$10 million to rebuild the aqueducts that were destroyed by the hurricane.
Which was great news.
And therefore, I'm hopeful that we will see a lot of public works on the move in the next couple of
That's
the
great.
next months.
So congratulations on that, on those stuff. The OECD and the Pacific Alliance, and our membership believes that the larger the market, the better it is for all companies. And we know that there's not just that. There's other elements inside there. But do you think that we have a chance to enter the process? We're not saying to have it signed and done, because there's a lot of analysis after you enter a process. And do you support that?
Well, the OCDE, OECD, OECD,
OECD. Yeah.
OECD in English, OCDE in Spanish, OCDE, is something that we are looking at as a major need for the country, particularly because of the best practices that we can get in terms of the countries we relate to. We have been moving steadily in the reviews in the different committees. We have been approved in 4 already. There are 4 more, but the total number is 21. So 8 of 21 still pending. I think we're going to move forward in that along that line, and I fully support that. I mean, we have to make it in order to reach a point where we can compete and refer ourselves as part of this very exclusive group of developed countries. In terms of the Pacific Alliance, what I've said is that we need to be certain that when we get into the alliance, we start negotiating it, we have the resources to make it happen. And my big concern of not having approved the fiscal reform is that we don't have the resources at this point either to take advantage of the alliance or to protect some of our sectors that could be at risk in the opportunities that they require. But I think this is something that needs a little bit more elaboration, and it is probably in all likelihood going to be resolved in the next trimester or so.
Good. Well, thanks for that. Energy costs. We see them starting to escalate, and we know some projects had nothing to do with your administration and how that occurred, and there is payments that need to be done after those. But what can we do to, in your experience, to getting ourselves some energy costs that keep us competitive? Because really, it's not the fact that we don't want to pay energy, it's the fact that we want to make sure that we're competitive.
Yeah, no, this is something that's a major issue. We're working with the Chamber of Industries, trying to reach it, bring it down and or stabilize it. I mean, we know that we are competing with lower costs elsewhere, and I think in the next few weeks, we ought to have a proposal that I think is going to be instrumental in reducing the cost of energy for the productive sectors. Unfortunately, the time is up. We have to close the program at this point, but I would like to invite you to come again, and then maybe we can deepen our comments and opinions on these other issues that are pending. I know that you have a big list of other issues that you would like to discuss.
Well, first of all, last of all, thank you very much for the opportunity, but more importantly, on part of all our members in the American Chamber, we've really appreciated and respected our relationship with you. You've been nothing but supportive, and you listen, and we know you know what's all around you, and it's very impressive, and we know that it's hard sometimes to move such a big ship. But you've been doing a super job, and we thank you for that relationship.
Thank you very much, and we'll move on.
All right.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks.